Okay, everything from this point on is an attempt to recover what I think I've lost on tape 8, which I've misplaced or lost. So we're at the Bit Bazar, the north end. This is the flower section. Where it comes from and where it goes from here, if it doesn't sell, is a good question. Maybe it just gets replenished each day and does keep selling. I'm cutting out of here now and moving into an old section of the market in general. And that's all kinds of small shops. We'll see them in a few minutes if I can. And here we go. This area is littered with mosques and amens, because it's the old section. And those stones give us a little bit of that kind of clue. Sold here everything that you can imagine. This has all been redone. It's a much wider street than the old town, which I hope to run across here briefly so we can see it. There are wedding dresses. And here. This is the caravansary, however you pronounce that. It's right next to the archaeological museum, which I hope. And then the traders, usually who were pretty wealthy, stayed up on top. There may be some old buildings, one or two of them restored a bit. They're the prettiest mosque, the one that's near the fortress. There's a cafe I sat in after some considerable walking to enjoy a drink and video this somewhat busy corner. Sewing shop. And in the distance, the clock tower associated with this place, but not as close as you'd think in reading the guidebooks. You can imagine what this could be like when the tourism really cranks up here someday, when they've finished everything and you have access to a considerable infrastructure upgrade here all throughout this area. And I'm thinking that these posts will probably, these steel threaded things that are sticking up will probably be light posts to make this useful at night. Everywhere are, this I think I got today, which is an Amman, and there a bathhouse in there. Notice another mosque in the background. And here one not too far away. Mountains like this are a real Muslim thing in the Balkans. Everywhere you find them. And it's usually good water. Here another lovely intersection. They're all about over. You can just imagine how this was when it was old. Not to mention how quaint it is almost now. The cafe culture in the Balkans so far, in Albania and Macedonia, surely must rival the French, although the French food's infinitely better. But here they just drink coffee and beer. Roasted coffee, but roasted peanuts it looks like. Yeah. And they're a pretty building, two-story, way down at the end. We'll go up to look at it because I'm going to go to the right, which you'll see in a moment, just because it looks interesting. Here, one of the few places where there's lots of signs. Nice big barrel vessel leading to the fortress. Down there another Amman, or bathhouse, as you can see, and now we're moving towards the center of town. This is a high-priced tourist area. That fellow that sells ice cream cones there sells them for 50 cents for the cone and 2 scoops, whereas the last place I got 2 scoops for 20 cents, including the cone. Fun thing about spending several days in a town like this, or city, is that you get to know where you are. It's almost like you live there. And there's a certain pleasure and comfort in having that knowledge. For example, off to my left is a small little escape route down to the main roadway that takes me back to my hostel if I want to go that way. It's a rather filthy place right there where that block is. And so now where we are, over there, is the stone bridge. Here another clock tower. And I'll try and recreate what I'd taken quite a bit of time to do the other day. These are the 2 saints that Christianized, for lack of a better term, the Balkans, particularly Macedonia. And this is the side of the new archaeological museum. We'll see it better from the other. This is the stone bridge, famous for Skopje. You can see major infrastructure going on here. There used to be a tower on either side of one end, or on either end of the bridge, one of which fell down, was supposed to be reconstructed at some point. It's interesting to look at this building, how huge it is, squeezed into this space between the river and that other building. And when you look at it from the front, it's a very imposing building. This is a statue of Caravansary, the leader of the People's Great Uprising from the 17th century, an important figure of Macedonian history, executed in 1689 on the stone bridge in Skopje. Standing about in the center, looking to the south, over cont'd, Macedonia, the main square in Skopje. That's Alexander the Great. Thorn in the side of Greece. A little bit of a view from the side of what this huge building will look like. Very Greek or Roman, very impressive. And I'm sure that this area of the riverbank will be equally so. They're building a pedestrian bridge from in front of that for some reason, and another one has been built further down that you can see. Whether it's simply to dramatize the area and or make it easier to get across, I don't know. The stone bridge performs that function, but maybe it'll be more efficient. Where those trees are right now are a great many restaurants. In fact, it's a whole restaurant row. The construction buildings that you see there will all be eliminated, and who knows what they will do to transform this riverside into a very beautiful area. These posts that sit up are not posts, and I saw them the other day, but they're not going now, are fountains, and there's one on either side of the bridge. And they add an impressive glow, and I suspect at night even more. It was in that direction that I did my mountain bike ride. Well, I used a mountain bike, rode that bike path all the way to the very end, which interestingly was somebody's property out in the country, and the three people were very surprised to see me. Up in the background you can see the towers of the fortress that is unopened totally right now for some reason. All these buildings are going to create a massive facade, and a very impressive facade for this north side of the river, and highlighted most particularly by this archaeological building. But it's only one part of this side. It's drama. While the rest of Macedonia seems almost completely unaware of this incredibly major project of new buildings on this waterfront near cont'd, Macedonia, it is impressive, and only will be more so as they continue to finish it off. A cute little piece of sculptural whimsy. I'm going to try and do a slow 360 off of the stone bridge, moving to the east. You can see that archaeological building museum will be dramatic even from the square here, and there are other buildings equally interesting down further. Here on the square, new architecture. Remember in 1963 the city was toasted by a massive earthquake that left very little standing. 80% of the city was destroyed in less than 22 seconds, and 1,070 people died. Here we're standing almost under Alexander. And all about us are statues of important people in the history, tumultuous as they always are in the Balkans, of Macedonia. And here a pretty little building, and we'll go over and take a look at the sculpture in there because I think it's interesting. What its specific historical reference or allusion is, I don't really know, but it has to be something very important to be such a centerpiece. Other buildings in the area, sadly they use cement so much and it deteriorates in color so fast because of the dirt that they don't maintain. And yet there are other buildings like this one that are architecturally interesting, and hopefully they can maintain that look. There are a few older looking buildings like that one, not significantly so, and too much crap up on top, and a few interesting buildings right there on the corner, but from that point on it returns rapidly to the utilitarian. The Greeks are most irritated at the Macedonians for using the name Macedonia and claiming that Alexander the Great is in their lineage, whereas the Greeks would like to claim that it's in theirs. And apparently it's a dispute over a small chunk of land that Alexander was purportedly born in that has shifted title between the Macedonians and the Greeks over time. But one man alleged that that is the principal obstacle within the EU to any help from the EU for Macedonia, even though it's in the EU, because Greece is obstructing any such assistance. We can only hope, and the Macedonians can only hope, that this phenomenal investment in the stature of this city will attract tourism in the future to such a degree that it will benefit all Macedonians rather than the political. No doubt the spirit of this lion and the spirit of those soldiers Greece believes is an usurpation of its heritage and imagery. It's interesting how such characters as Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan and Napoleon, who were simply conquering ravagers, who merely wanted the glory of conquering all that they could conquer, are somehow elevated to heroic levels in their future. Will Hitler sometime become such a character for Germany? If most Macedonians could experience the tranquility of sitting on the square, looking at the majesty that's in process of being built, and enjoy it somehow, perhaps they could feel a little more optimism. You have to wonder what the city will ultimately, or the country will ultimately do with that ugly building.